Welcome to section 7.13. Congratulations, you've learned all the material, the new material from chapter 7, and now we just need to learn how to apply it. And to do that, we're going to learn about some synthesis strategies. So, synthesis strategies. How can we use substitutions and eliminations to make new molecules? We've already seen a few examples. In organic chemistry, we want to use reactions we know to build more complex molecules that serve some purpose for society. For instance, let's say that you have this alkyl chloride. We already know you can do things like do a substitution reaction, either with sodium hydroxide or sodium cyanide to make this nitrile group here, or perhaps to make this alcohol group. You could then, for instance, take that alcohol molecule and do a reaction to it. So let's say you wanted to do a tosylation. We want to add a tosyl group onto the alcohol, so we would submit that alcohol to the tosylating conditions. Boom, now we have an alcohol that is tosylated, and we started from an alkyl halide. If instead of an alkyl chloride, we wanted an alkyl bromide, well, we could follow the same path to the alcohol and then add in the HBr. What we also could have done, perhaps, was to add in a bromide anion that could serve as an SN2 chemical as well, and then we could go straight to the bromide. Similarly, if we wanted to go from the tosyl group to the cyanide, we could simply add sodium cyanide here and get to the cyanide group. It just really depends on what we want to accomplish. Because let's say that we have this tosyl group onto the alkyl, our beginning alkyl substrate, we could either do an elimination from this point using a non-nucleophilic very strong base like sodium hydride, or we could do something like add in a thiol like this sodium thiolate and make the thiol. There's really a lot of almost unending options that we can do in organic chemistry. It just depends on what our goals are. One very important thing is to be able to try and see how you can make new connections, just as we did here in this small example. And that's really what 7.13 is about. It's about getting you to understand that you've been learning how to make new connections, but now we need to think about how we're going to apply them in this section. And one good way to do that is through what's called retrosynthesis. So to think about, okay, I have a molecule like this. How would we make this molecule? Well, one thing we could do is try to find places where perhaps it looks like we know how to make bond connections, such as a carbon-oxygen bond. We know how to make that perhaps through SN2 reactions. Here, there is a O-tosyl bond. So now we know that perhaps this was put in by tosylating an alcohol. So using these types of strategies, we can identify which parts of other molecules came together to make this larger one. For instance, you can see here, if you deprotonate this alcohol to make a better nucleophile, you could perform an SN2 reaction on this bromide. And you could also tosylate this alcohol to get this reaction here. So as we move on, we will continue to have new mechanisms and new reactions in our tool belt, and we have to remember just why we have them. It's because we have a tool belt and because we need to be able to use them to make new molecules. That was 7.13.